Okay, I want to talk about something I'm going to be doing this year. But firstly, I think we need to start off with a little bit of context. Because technically, I've only ever finished 2 games in my entire game development career. One of which was when I just copied a Unity 2D tutorial by a YouTuber called Game Maker's Toolkit. It's basically just a rip-off version of Flappy Bird, as you can see on the screen here. It's not that good. It was really a bit bad. But it was my first ever thing. That was a good few years ago now. That was the first one I ever published. I made some games before that, but this is the first one that I thought, actually, you know what, I'll just get it done and I'll publish it. Now, the second one was actually a lot more recent, and it was when I joined in on a itch game jam. It was just a game jam. And the theme was something called, I think the theme was called Nest. I decided that I was going to build one of them raid-baity platform games. It's very physics and momentum based. You played as an egg, and you just sort of had to complete this platforming game. Now, unfortunately, and I've got proof of it, it's very, very, very similar to a very popular game that's come about at the end of last year, the end of 2025, called Egging On, which I'll show you on screen here if you haven't known. It was published on the 6th of November 2025. Now, the game jam that I did, I basically made this game in like a few days, a very rudimentary version of it. And I published that on the 23rd of June 2025. So I did actually make it, and it's just pure coincidence. And it's a little bit frustrating because they did make like several million off of the game's release, which, you know, with the benefit of hindsight, maybe I should have carried on my idea. I didn't think it was very good, but there we go. But anyway, the point is that I don't actually have a very long list of published games that I've made. It's pretty ironic because I'm wanting to start like a game development, software development channel. But I have made several projects that are half completed that look pretty good. And actually the systems that are in it, the systems and the code and everything that's in it is actually really good. But my trouble is I always start a project that's a bit too big for my boots. Whether that's it'll be like quite a big project that I need a lot of time for, that I don't have at that particular point in time. But when I do have more time, like I'll go back to it and I would have lost motivation, and I just don't end up finishing it for one reason or another. So I want to put an end to that. So, for 2026, I'm going to be doing something very different. I'm going to make 6 games across the entire year. All of them are going to be made with Unity, and they're going to increase in difficulty from very, very simple to a little bit more complex. Now, you may be wondering why I'm doing this. It's simply because I want to get into the swing of publishing games. I want to get into the swing of starting off with a smaller game, publishing it, documenting it, you know, getting people's interest in the game and the topic, and if people do like it, then I can continue developing those games and making them more, making them better, updating them, making them more public, making them more well known. So the trouble is, I often get ahead of myself. So here's where we're going to need some rules, right? All of them are going to be made with Unity 3D. All of them are going to be made with either in-game assets or assets that I can download from the Poly Pizza website. That's it. I'm not going to be spending hours on the Unity Asset Store scrolling for assets and animations and various different things and getting distracted with different ideas that I see on there. And ideally, I'm going to spend about 16 hours on each game, which granted is actually not a very long time at all. But see, I want to set myself a time frame, because if I have a certain amount of time that I can spend on it, there's a goal there for me to actually accomplish. So I'm not just going to spend hours and hours and hours wasting time on random things that aren't going to be necessary. I need to crack down on what is and isn't necessary. Now, if I don't spend as much time on one game, so I only spend 8 hours on one game, then I've got 8 hours that I can reallocate to other games. My goal is not to make the perfect game. It's not to release some AAA standard Souls-like Reborn game, right? That's not my goal. My goal is to just publish, to make a game in a short period of time, publish it, see what people think, see what they like, see what they don't like, and take it from there. The question is, what are the 6 games? Well, I'm not entirely set on them, but I've got an idea of what I want each of the 6 ones to be. I say that, but the first one is actually almost done. It's meant to be something easy that I can quickly churn out code in a few hours and publish. It's not meant to be fancy. It's not got the most amount of features in the world. To be honest, it's basically a complete rip-off of what you've seen online on TikTok or different mobile game adverts. You know, those ones where you got the soldiers running through the different blue and red gates, shooting guns and bullets at the gates, and the number gets bigger, they run through. You get the idea. But that's basically what it is. The second game steps things up a little bit. There's a very popular game called Cluster Truck, which I'm sure most of you would have played before, but if not, it's basically a very much physics and momentum based game where you build up momentum on top of moving platforms, which are trucks, and then you basically jump from one to another to another. It's like an Infinite Runner style parkour game where you build up momentum, see how far you can get, see how quick you can get, see how high you can jump, things like that basically. The third game, I'm a bit loose on the idea of like a stacking game. So you stack up weird random objects. It could be an aeroplane, it could be a spoon, it could be a computer, it could be a statue, whatever it may be. And you try and stack it up as high as possible while bearing physics in mind. So it can't just wibble all over the place, it can't just collapse. The higher up you go, the more destruction points you're going to get. And then you can choose to move on to the destruction phase, which is where you can then spend those destruction points on various different, methods of destroying a grenade, an explosive, something like that. And the more stuff you destroy in a certain period of time, the more points you get. With those points, you can then unlock new objects. You can maybe unlock power-ups. Maybe you can delay gravity for a while, something like that. I'm not too sure. The fourth game is actually an idea I've had for a very long time, and maybe I'll carry on to be like quite a big project, but it's a game that I've had in mind called Only One Intern, which is, I want sort of to be like a low poly single player factory game. Maybe there's a little bit of story in there, I'm not too sure, but the idea is you are the overnight worker at a factory, but you have to do everything yourself. There's no automation. You have to manually pick up every rock, every ingot, everything individually. You've only got one inventory slot, so you can only carry one thing at a time. You have to move at a certain speed. You have to keep track of what's going on where. You have to move things from one conveyor belt to another. You have to activate the machines. You have to control the machines, things like that. But you've only got a certain period of time to do it in. The fifth game is also a factory game, but it's all about efficiency. You have a set grid, you have a set area that you can use. You have fixed inputs in those areas. You can sort of regenerate them if you don't like where they are. I'm thinking like coal, iron, energy, stuff like that. And the goal is you have a certain number of factory pieces and a certain number of conveyor belts. And the idea is just to make the factory as efficient as you can with as few pieces on the board. Now, the sixth game is possibly the most complex one, and is the one that I'm most inclined to take further past this sort of year goal. And it's a game that I want to call the Butterfly Effect, or something similar. Which, from the name, I'm sure you can guess the general idea of the. But this one is definitely going to be nowhere complete. This one is an exception to the rule. It's probably going to be a bit more of a demo. The core concept is very, very simple. You play through a scenario, a parkour course, a platform, an area. You're just doing some sort of story or doing something, okay? And you also have the ability to go back in time. You cannot go forward in time. You can only go back to the present, if that makes sense. So let's say you start the game and you run through a gate and the timer is at 10 seconds. You could then go back in time to 5 seconds, or you can go to 9, and then you could go back to 10, but you couldn't say go to 12 or 13. You can't go forwards in time. So you can only go backwards. When you go backwards in time, you can interact with the environment, but not the player. And then the player will reenact your movements that you made. So you could go back in time and close the gate. And if your player had previously gone through the gate, you have now disconnected that timeline, so to speak. So instead of going through the gate, the player would then just go up to the gate, and then that's where you would then resume the player. This would allow you to jump across large gaps that you wouldn't normally, because you could jump over and then you would be falling, but you could go back in time to before you jumped, and then let's say you're carrying a box over your head, you could jump over to the gap and then resume time, which then would allow you in the actual time to jump on the box, to land on the box, and then jump from the box onto something else, for example. I'm not too sure on it. It's just sort of a concept at the moment, but I don't have to worry about that until we've developed these other games. You may be wondering, what is the point of this video if I haven't made the games yet? The point is, I want there to be something somewhere publicly, whether people see it or whether they don't see it, to sort of hold me accountable, maybe, so that I actually end up finishing these games, and so that I have a goal in mind. Because if I don't have a goal in mind and I don't have a challenge, then I'm never going to end up actually finishing the games, because I'll just move on to a new project. But mainly, I just want to see what happens. I'm going to document everything as I go. I'm going to release lots of game devs, devlog videos and things like that, or clips of the games as I go, just to sort of see what other people think, get your guys' opinions on it. If you've got a certain game concept that you want to see, maybe drop that in and I can have a look, maybe see if that's going to be one of the games I end up making. If you're interested to see how this actually goes, if I do make the project or anything else of mine that you want to see, I am on YouTube and I'm on TikTok. At the moment, I have to say, I've been posting a lot more of gameplay clips of me playing other games, but I'm planning on dropping out a few more game development videos along the way. If there's anything that you do want to see, let me know, drop it in a comment below, and hopefully I'll see you throughout the year when I publish these 6 games.